Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take complex topics and, well, distill them into the most potent insights. We cut through the noise so you can be truly well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive into something utterly fundamental to your daily existence, yet often overlooked: the science of human attention.
It's a topic that's, frankly, of strategic imperative, especially now in our AI-driven world. We've synthesized an AI-powered scientific study. It's titled The Science of Human Attention Paying, along with, a stack of other compelling sources. We're going to unpack how attention works, why it's so critical, and, importantly, what its future holds.
Yeah, and our mission for you today is really to give you a shortcut, a way to grasp the profound role attention plays in shaping your understanding, your decisions, even the world around you. Get ready for some, I think, surprising facts and maybe some aha moments, because we're about to unpack how this limited mental resource functions as a fundamental bottleneck for all information processing. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our journey begins, maybe surprisingly not in the lab, but way back in the minds of ancient philosophers.
Really? Philosophers?
Absolutely. You had thinkers like Joan Luthieves, for instance, already connecting attention to memory, how we form memories. And Gottfried Leibniz, he introduced this idea of apperception, basically, that conscious moment when something clicks, when it moves from just being passively sensed to being truly registered and understood.
So it's about active recognition, not just stuff happening around you.
Exactly. And even then, they were debating voluntary versus involuntary attention. Is it something you choose to focus on, or does it just grab you? But then came William James, around 1890. His landmark insight gave us this really powerful definition. He said, attention is taking possession by the mind in clear and vivid form of one out of what seems several simultaneously possible objects or trains of thought.
Taking possession by the mind, that's quite strong language.
It is, and he didn't stop there. He asserted very powerfully that the faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. So this elevates attention, way beyond just a cognitive process. It becomes a cornerstone of human agency, of self-governance.
Wow, that quote from James is incredibly profound. Can you elaborate just a little more on how he saw it as so foundational beyond just basic perception?
Yeah, absolutely. For James, attention was the active choice. It wasn't just about what lands on your retina. It's about what you choose to focus on. And then crucially, the effort involved in staying focused. That deliberate, conscious direction of your mental energy, that's what he believed, shapes everything. Your judgment, your character, your free will. It's all about that intentional mental effort.
Okay, so James gives us this really powerful concept, attention as central to will. But how do you actually, study that? It seems so internal.
Well, that's where Wilhelm Wundt comes in. He established the first psychology lab back in 1879 and formally introduced attention as a topic for scientific study. But surprisingly, it almost vanished for a while. The behaviorists, they felt it was too mentalistic, not observable enough.
Right. They wanted to stick to what they could directly measure.
Exactly. But what really brought attention back, what revolutionized the field, was something very practical during World War II.
Yeah.
They needed to optimize radar operators' performance.
A real-world problem demanding a solution.
Precisely. That practical need sparked this Phoenix-like revival for attention research around 1949. And that led to these foundational theories we still use. Like, that feeling, crowded party, lots of noise, but you can somehow tune in to just one conversation. Maybe even hear your name from across the room.
Oh, yeah, the cocktail party effect. Colin Cherry.
That's the one. Colin Cherry coined it. And that observation led to some truly radical ideas.
Like Donald Broadbent's filter theory. That was a big one. The idea that your brain actually filters out most stuff before you're even consciously aware of it.
Right. It's kind of mind-blowing. Your brain is making these incredibly fast decisions about what matters long before you even realize you've paid attention. It really changed how we thought about perception.
But it wasn't the whole story, was it? Anne Preisman came along.
Exactly. Anne Preisman refined it with her attenuation theory. She suggested unattended information isn't totally blocked. It's just attenuated, like the volume's turned down, but It's still kind of there in the background.
Makes sense. You might still pick up on something important, like your name.
Right. And then Daniel Kahneman introduced his capacity model. This shifted the view a bit. Attention isn't just a filter, it's a limited mental resource, like a finite budget.
So focusing takes effort, costs something from that budget.
Precisely. More demanding tasks need more mental effort, a bigger slice of that attentional pie.
Okay, so these early models laid the groundwork, the what of attention, but it really begs the question, the evolutionary why. Why did our brains even develop this critical filtering system? From an evolutionary standpoint, attention is just. It's a critical survival adaptation. Your brain simply can't process everything at once. It's impossible. So it had to evolve this masterful way to pick and choose what to focus on. Imagine our ancestors, right? Quickly spotting a predator or vital food or a potential mate.
That selective focus would give a huge survival advantage.
Absolutely. Filtering out the distractions, focusing on what's key for survival or reproduction, it conferred a massive advantage. And beyond just survival, attention also shaped our social dynamics. Mechanisms evolved pretty early on to help us quickly differentiate in-group from out-group.
Us versus them.
Exactly. Our sources suggest this is rooted deep in historical resource competition. Non-kin groups often posed a threat. And this helps explain those persistent we versus them dynamics we still see everywhere today. And even something called schema-based distrust.
Schema-based distrust. What's that exactly?
It's where these ingrained mental shortcuts, these pre-existing ideas or schemas you have about certain groups, lead to almost automatic suspicion, often before any real interaction even happens.
Wow. That's a powerful concept. So you're saying our brains might be almost like wired to jump to conclusions about them versus us. Does that mean attention inherently reinforces prejudice? Or can we fight it?
Well, it suggests a predisposition, perhaps, but, and this is crucial, our brains are incredibly adaptable. Understanding these evolutionary roots, it helps us see why these biases pop up. And that awareness, that's the first step towards consciously choosing to override them. It takes deliberate attentional effort, though.
Right, it takes work. Okay, so grind this to the present-day brain. How does it actually focus? Cognitive psychology gives us some useful models, right? Yeah, for visual attention, there's the spotlight model, like shining a beam of focus. And the zoom lens model, which is kind of cool. Your focus can narrow right down for detail or widen out to take in the whole scene.
Like adjusting a camera lens.
Exactly. And revisiting Kahneman's capacity model, it really emphasizes attention as that limited mental resource you flexibly allocate. Think of like your mental energy budget.
The more demanding the task, the more energy it costs.
Precisely. And cognitive psychology also talks about different levels, a kind of hierarchy. There's focused attention, just responding to one thing. Sustained attention, or vigilance, keeping focus over time. Then selective attention, actively ignoring distractions. Alternating attention, shifting focus back and forth. And divided attention, multitasking, which is notoriously hard.
We all try it, though.
We do. And interestingly, mindfulness comes up here. It's highlighted as a clinical model that specifically trains these attention functions. It enhances awareness. And it's correlated with positive brain changes, like more activity in the prefrontal cortex and less in the amygdala, the fear center.
So mindfulness is essentially attention training.
In many ways, yes. Which leads us to the brain itself, what's actually happening up there.
But what's truly fascinating is that attention isn't just one spot lighting up. It's a real neural symphony. A complex network of regions working together. Key players. Definitely the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, that's your executive control center, decision-making, planning, working memory. Then the parietal cortex, crucial for spatial processing. It basically creates a saliency map, highlighting what's important in your environment. And the sensory cortices, they act like dimmer switches, enhancing or suppressing incoming stimuli.
A symphony with multiple sections playing in concert.
Precisely. And there's this dynamic interplay between bottom-up and top-down attention. Think of it like this. Bottom-up is stimulus-driven. A loud bang, a bright flash, it grabs your attention automatically. Information flows from parietal to prefrontal areas, often associated with gamma band frequencies.
Okay, the world grabbing your focus.
Right. Then top-down is goal-directed. You're looking for your keys in a messy room. You're intentionally directing your focus. That involves flow from the prefrontal cortex back to the parietal cortex, often using beta band frequencies.
So you're driving the focus yourself.
Exactly. And when your brain focuses, it's doing more than just activating areas. It enhances the neural signals for what you're attending to. It decreases noise correlations, basically, shared signals between neurons that aren't informative, and it increases the synchrony, the coordinated firing of the selected neurons, especially in that gamma band range.
So it's like a neural amplifier and denoiser combined.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It leads to that subjective feeling of clearness, where the important information just seems to stand out.
Incredible. But how much of this symphony, this ability to focus, is just hardwired? How much is genetics?
Well, our sources suggest genes play a pretty significant role. They account for roughly 50 to 70% of the variation we see in general cognitive abilities across the population. ADHD is a good, though complex, example. It's heterogeneous, lots of variations. It involves changes in dozens of genes, not just one. Often you see slower development in the frontal lobe, lower dopamine levels, and it frequently overlaps with other conditions like autism spectrum disorder or depression. It's really a complex gene by environment interaction.
So not predetermined, but a strong genetic influence.
Definitely. And we also see a very distinct developmental path for attention right from infancy. It unfolds in stages.
Yeah, the outline mentioned that. Walk us through it.
Okay, so from birth to about 1 year, you have fleeting attention. Babies are easily distracted by sounds, lights, anything new. Then from 1 to 2 years, it becomes more rigid. Toddlers can get intensely focused on a task they chose, but they really can't handle interruptions well.
I think parents recognize that stage.
Right. Then, 2 to 3 years, it's typically single-channeled. They have to stop what they're doing to listen to instructions. They can't easily do both. Around 4 to 5 years, two-channeled attention starts to emerge. They can perform a task and understand an instruction at the same time. It's a big leap. And then, by 5 to 6 years, you get integrated attention. That two-channeled ability becomes consistent, they can sustain focus for longer, and they get much better at ignoring irrelevant stuff.
Wow, a clear progression.
Absolutely. And this foundational skill, developed in those early years, is highly predictive of later executive function and cognitive control. It correlates strongly with better academic and social skills down the line. It really underscores how important nurturing attention is in early childhood for just overall healthy development.
Okay, so attention develops over time. It's partly genetic and involves complex brain networks. But how does it actually affect our lives?
Yeah.
Seems like it touches everything. It really does. Let's start with human development in children. We mentioned nurturing attention, but positive attention itself. Things like smiles, eye contact, specific labeled praise that fosters trust, security, a positive self-image. Kids learn pretty quickly. Positive behaviors get attention, undesirable ones get less. So that pattern of positive attention is just crucial for their sense of being loved and secure. It even creates intergenerational patterns.
So how you pay attention to your kids shapes how they see themselves and interact later.
Exactly. And building on that, think about education and learning. Attention is the absolute gatekeeper. For any learning to stick, you have to focus your attention long enough for information to get processed in working memory and then hopefully stored long term.
Makes sense if you're not paying attention in class.
You're not learning effectively. Unsurprisingly, attention problems are a strong predictor of lower academic achievement. Teachers play a huge role here, setting routines, teaching kids how to manage their own learning, creating psychological safety. All these things free up those precious attentional resources for learning.
Right, reducing the cognitive load from other stressors.
Precisely. Now let's shift to human health, both mental and physical. There's a strong bidirectional link. Mental health issues like depression or anxiety can actually manifest physically,
Yeah.
and they often make it harder to engage in self-care. But mindfulness, again, by training attention leading to faster reactions, less distractibility significantly boosts both cognitive focus and emotional regulation. It impacts overall well-being.
So training your attention can literally make you healthier mentally and physically.
The evidence points that way. Now, what about human-to-human science? Our social interactions. Social attention exists on this spectrum, right? From focusing on yourself to focusing on others. Attending to others, like noticing where someone's looking, is critical for figuring out their intentions. But on the flip side, excessive attention-seeking can really disrupt relationships and group harmony.
It's about finding a balance in where you direct that social focus.
Exactly. A dynamic balance is needed for healthy social environments. Shifting focus now to societal rules and laws. Laws, our sources note, both reflect and shape social norms. And behavioral economics shows how subtle nudges, things like simplifying choices, highlighting what others do, pointing out risks can influence whether people comply with rules. Your brain is actually actively tracking when norms are violated.
We're wired to notice rule breakers.
Seems so. And collective attention, like we see in social movements, can be a powerful force for changing those laws and norms.
Okay, how about governance and leadership?
Well, leaders' perceptions of public opinion definitely influence policy. But those perceptions can be biased. There's often a perception gap between what leaders think the public wants and reality. And mass media, social media, they play a huge role by strategically directing public attention, using slogans, symbols, narratives. And think about it, when we choose leaders, we implicitly expect them to have strong attentional skills, strategic thinking, decision-making, sorting info quickly.
Right, they need to handle a massive information flow.
For sure. Moving to the global stage, international relations. Conflict, especially those us versus them divisions, gets worse when groups selectively attend only to information confirming their own group identity. Media has totally transformed diplomacy, too. It's now a strategic tool to sway public attention and mobilize support. And in actual negotiations, active listening, a core attentional skill, is vital for building trust and understanding.
Listening as an act of attention.
Absolutely. Now, this next one is fascinating and maybe a bit alarming. Wealth and power and the attention economy. Here, human attention is explicitly treated as a scarce commodity.
The idea that if the product is free online, then you are the product.
That's the crux of it. Companies, especially advertising-driven ones like many social media platforms, profit by maximizing your engagement. They often do this by tapping into your brain's reward system, triggering dopamine release to keep you scrolling, clicking, watching.
So who loses in that equation?
Well, the users often pay with their finite attention for these seemingly free digital products, and crucially, often without really informed consent, as their data is collected and used what Shoshana Zuboff termed surveillance capitalism.
And the consequences, the negative externalities.
They're significant. We see links to social media addiction, rising mental health issues like depression and anxiety, the rapid spread of disinformation, a general poverty of attention where we feel overwhelmed but unfocused. It can also lead to marginalization of less sensational voices and worsened political polarization through algorithm-driven echo chambers.
Wow, that paints a pretty stark picture of the digital landscape.
It does. And finally, let's connect attention to environmental stewardship. Environmental problems are fundamentally human problems, right? They're shaped by how we, collectively and individually, attend to the natural world. There's the biophilia hypothesis, this idea we have an innate connection to nature, which can motivate us, and green mindfulness, which is about fostering an emotional connection to environmental issues that can build intrinsic motivation for sustainability.
So paying attention to nature makes us care more.
It seems to. And conversely, inattention to environmental degradation has real psychological costs. Eco-anxiety, depression, even PTSD in some cases.
Okay, so attention underpins basically everything, from personal health to global politics to the environment. Which brings us to AI.
Right. The big question. Is AI friend or foe when it comes to our attention? Well, AI certainly presents some significant ethical challenges, especially around manipulating human attention. We talked about the attention economy and AI superchargers that take dark patterns. These are deliberately deceptive user interface designs. They're crafted to trick you into doing things you didn't intend, hidden fees, subscriptions that are impossible to cancel, that kind of thing.
Making it easy to sign up, hard to leave.
Exactly. And AI can potentially detect moments when you might be more vulnerable, tired, stressed, and create personalized addictive strategies. This raises really fundamental questions about our autonomy.
And the lack of transparency helps these tactics work if you don't know how it's manipulating you.
It's much more effective. This whole issue has led to the rise of digital attention ethics. It's an emerging moral compass trying to prioritize user autonomy, transparency, genuine value, and fairness. We're even seeing legislation being introduced now to specifically prohibit dark patterns.
That's encouraging. But what about the general impact of just using all this tech? Is it actually changing our attention spans?
The research suggests, yes, there's a measurable impact. Studies show a direct link between heavy social media use, bordering on addiction, and a significantly reduced attention span. One study found the average person switches attention roughly every 47 seconds when working on a screen. And the average time spent focused on a single task has dropped by over 50% in the last decade or so.
Wow, every 47 seconds. That's constant switching.
It is. And this leads to what researchers call fragmented attention. It seems to decrease our working memory capacity and impair cognitive control. We get worse at sustained focus.
But AI isn't all bad news for attention, right? There's potential upside, too.
Oh, absolutely. AI also holds immense potential as an ally for our attention. Think about automating certain cognitive tasks, summarizing long documents, analyzing data, even assisting with reasoning. This could free up our attention for high-order thinking, creativity, complex problem-solving. It's the idea of AI as a cognitive co-pilot.
So it could augment our abilities, handle the grunt work?
Potentially, yes. And AI could also be used to develop personalized attention training programs, maybe adaptive mindfulness interventions, tailored specifically to an individual's needs and challenges.
That's interesting. It raises a deeper question, though. What does human smarts even mean, especially when we compare ourselves to AI? Well, logical reasoning, a big part of what we consider smarts, relies heavily on attention, right? You need to selectively focus on the relevant information, filter out the noise, hold things in mind. And research shows that individuals with better attentional control generally do perform better on logical reasoning tasks. However, human thinking is also notoriously prone to systematic errors. We fall prey to cognitive biases like confirmation bias, where we just look for evidence that confirms what we already believe.
We see that all the time.
We do. And logical fallacies, errors in the structure of an argument, like attacking the person instead of the argument ad hominem, or claiming one small step will inevitably lead to disaster, the slippery slope.
So our smarts are flawed by these biases and fallacies.
Yes. But here's where AI could potentially help again. Because AI can analyze vast amounts of data about human behavior, it might be able to act as a cognitive debiaser.
A debiaser. How would that work?
Imagine AI identifying patterns in your thinking or decision-making that suggest a bias, and then alerting you to it in real time. Hey, you seem to be overweighting information that confirms your initial hypothesis. It could help us make more rational judgments.
That sounds incredibly promising, AI as a real-time debiaser. But, are there any ethical concerns there? Could relying on AI to correct our thinking stifle, genuine human intuition or creativity?
That's an excellent point and a crucial consideration. The goal, ideally, would be to augment human judgment, not replace it. It's a balance. We wouldn't want AI to make us lazy thinkers. The aim would be to use it as a tool to help us become aware of our biases so we can then make more conscious, reasoned choices ourselves while still valuing intuition and creative leaps. It's about enhancing our critical thinking, not outsourcing it entirely.
Okay, finding that balance is key. This all brings us back to a really fundamental question. Why? Why do we even need to pay attention in the first place? Well, it's not just some social convention we invented. It seems rooted in natural laws, in biological imperatives, that limited capacity of the brain we keep mentioning. It makes selective attention an absolute necessity. For survival, for efficient processing, you have to filter.
It's a fundamental constraint of our biology.
Exactly. And here's where things get really mind-bending. Some interpretations of quantum physics are exploring theoretical links between consciousness, the brain, and directed attention.
Quantum physics and attention, how does that connect?
Well, the idea, put simply, is that conscious choices specifically, the act of directing your attention and exerting mental effort, might not just be passive observation. Some theories, like the quantum Zeno effect, propose that sustained attention can actually stabilize a specific neural state. It suggests that by holding your focus, you can influence brain function at a quantum level, allowing your conscious intention to help bring about the experience you're aiming for.
Whoa, so attention isn't just filtering reality, it might be actively participating in shaping it, at least within our brains.
That's the provocative implication some physicists and neuroscientists are exploring. It elevates attention to a fundamental act of conscious will, deeply tied to our sense of agency. It's way beyond just filtering noise.
That's a radical perspective.
It is. And on a more grounded level, attention is also absolutely central to our moral lives, to distinguishing right from wrong. Moral learning requires you to attend to the most morally significant consequences of your actions and choices. And circling back to AI, digital attention ethics insists that any ethical system must respect your attentional autonomy, your right to informed consent. It stands firmly against those manipulative dark patterns.
So ethical frameworks depend on recognizing the value and vulnerability of attention.
Precisely. Which leads to the paradox. If attention is so vital, why do we sometimes disregard rules or engage in cultural conflict? Why the paradox of disregard?
Well, cognitive biases play a huge role again. Confirmation bias keeps us locked into our own views. And those evolutionary predispositions we talked about, in-group favoritism, suspicion of the out-group, they lead us to selectively attend to things that reinforce our perspectives. We end up in echo chambers, viewing other groups, other cultures with automatic suspicion. Overcoming this takes real, conscious, cognitive effort. It requires broadening our attention, cultivating empathy.
It takes work to pay attention differently.
It really does. So given all of this, the importance, the challenges, the potential, it's pretty clear we need some strategic interventions, right? Ways to make sure human attention is valued, protected, and maybe even enhanced. First off, fostering optimal attention in individuals. The good news is attention is highly plastic. It's trainable across all ages. Lifelong learning for attention is totally possible.
So it's never too late to work on your focus.
Absolutely not. For early childhood, as we said, providing that positive, responsive attention is key for trust and self-image. In education, structured environments, teaching self-regulation strategies, ensuring psychological safety, these all help. And personally, mindfulness meditation keeps coming up for enhancing attentional control. Also, things like puzzles, critical thinking exercises, they boost logical cognition. And practical strategies like the Pomodoro technique, minimizing distractions, consciously limiting multitasking, they all help.
Okay, so individual practices and better educational environments.
Yeah.
What about the systems like AI?
Right. Ethical AI development and regulation are crucial. We need proactive rules, actual legislation against dark patterns, plus strong accountability for how AI systems impact attention. Developers themselves need to commit to ethical design principles, prioritizing your autonomy, being transparent, providing real value, ensuring fairness. And interestingly, AI itself could be a tool for empowerment here. Imagine AI-powered dashboards that clearly show you how your attention is being targeted online, what data is being collected about your focus.
Using AI to fight back against manipulative AI, in a sense.
Potentially, yes. Then we need broader policy and educational interventions. Governments can use policy as a nudge, subtly guiding collective attention towards beneficial outcomes, simplifying choices for retirement savings, for instance, or using social norms to encourage conservation. Education needs to include attentional literacy. We need to equip people, starting young, with the skills to manage their own focus, to critically evaluate the fire hose of information, and to recognize and resist their own cognitive biases.
Teaching people how to pay attention in the modern world.
Exactly. And finally, policies that support overall well-being, mental health access, promoting physical activity, encouraging mindfulness, these create a populace that's generally more focused, engaged, and productive.
Makes sense. Healthy people have more attentional resources.
Precisely. And lastly, zooming out, we need to think about promoting global harmony and environmental stewardship through the lens of attention. To bridge divides, we need to shift collective attention towards shared understanding, towards empathy, realizing we are all in this together. Promoting active listening and diplomacy, fostering empathy by focusing on how our actions affect distant others, and for the environment, consciously directing attention to nature's cues, understanding consequences, fostering that green mindfulness for a deeper, more empathetic engagement.
So consciously directing our collective attention towards connection and sustainability.
That's the goal.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive has really shown that attention, it's not just some basic function. It's this limited adaptive resource deeply rooted in our biology, our evolution. It acts as a gateway to consciousness, to higher order thought, even, as you said, to our moral compass.
Yeah, it influences absolutely everything, from your earliest development right through to global conflict and the very structure of this modern attention economy. And while AI definitely throws up new challenges for our focus, it also holds, I think, immense potential to help us enhance it if we guide it ethically.
Right. So here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to mull over. If your capacity for focus, for understanding, for ethical action is indeed trainable, what conscious steps will you take, starting now, to protect and maybe even elevate your own attention in this increasingly complex, demanding world?
Thank you for diving deep with us today. We really hope this has given you a powerful shortcut to being truly well-informed on this vital topic.
Until next time, keep focusing on what truly matters.
This is DigitView.